All praise is due to Allah, and sufficient is He, and peace be upon His chosen servants. And then, by the grace of Allah, we are still continuing our blessed and virtuous series, which is titled The Tolerance of Islam. And by Allah's grace, we are also still discussing the tolerance of Islam towards prisoners. Or if you wish to be more specific, we could say the tolerance of the beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, towards prisoners, and about the tolerance shown by the companions of the Prophet, may Allah be pleased with them, and grant them satisfaction towards prisoners. We have already heard much about this in the past 2 episodes, but as I mentioned, I will bring you a surprise and something new, God willing. However, it suffices for me to remind everyone that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, instructed that the hungry among the prisoners be fed. He also instructed that those among the prisoners who were unclothed be given clothing. He instructed that those prisoners who were afraid be reassured. It did not stop at that point, but I also want you to remember that when the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was brought prisoners and saw a man wearing a worn-out, torn garment that exposed his nakedness and so on, he took off his own garment and gave it to him. Come with me, everyone, to something beautiful and new that we will delve into, God willing, in this context, by the will of Allah, the Almighty. Abdullah ibn Umar said, someone might say to me, well, what you're about to mention, what does it have to do with the prisoners? You'll understand in a moment. You'll soon see how tolerance works and how it can even extend to whom. Tolerance applies to all of God's creation, the Almighty. Pay close attention with me, except, of course, where there are limits set by Allah, the Almighty. That is an exception. All right, now pay attention to what he says next. A woman was punished because of a cat she had confined. A woman was punished because of a cat, not just any cat, but specifically because of this act. No, she confined it until it died. She locked it up and it died. She became responsible for that. Of course, nowadays you might have a bird that you're raising at home. You might be raising certain birds, like finches, ornamental birds, or something similar, like a parrot or the like. If you're keeping it, that's fine. So you can enjoy watching it. There's nothing wrong with that. But with the condition that you feed it, give it water, and provide it with air, make sure it has fresh air so it doesn't die. If you do that, there's nothing wrong with it and you bear no sin. But if you confine it and then deprive it of food and water, then you have killed it and are responsible for that. That's why in this narration it says she was tormented. The narration uses the word tormented with a particular pronunciation. And I'm not saying she just entered the fire, but as it appears in some narrations, no. A woman was tormented because of a cat she confined until it died, just for a cat, even a cat. It's as if someone might say, come on, it's just a cat. What's the big deal if 1,000 cats die? No, look at the mercy extends to all creatures, even to a weak cat, to a helpless kitten. No, in this mercy, you must not belittle it or the soul within it, nor cause it to lose its life by God's will. Of course, not in that case. You are sinful and will be punished for it, meaning you deserve punishment. You are deserving of punishment. That's why, look at the beauty of our tolerance. So you don't say, but this tolerance is only with Muslims. Tolerance is with Muslims, with prisoners from among the polytheists, with the enemies of the religion, with everyone. This tolerance exists because it is an Islamic trait, a quality found in Islam. Pay attention among Muslims. When we say here that a woman was punished because of a cat, she locked it up until it died, so she entered the fire. She entered the fire. Of course, she was punished because she entered the fire. Pay attention, everyone, because she neither fed it, nor gave it water, nor did she let it go to eat from the insects of the earth. In other words, she neither fed it nor gave it water while she kept it locked up, nor did she let it go free so it could eat from the earth and drink from anywhere to survive. No, she deprived it of its freedom and prevented it from food and drink, causing its death. So she entered the fire and was punished because of it. This incident, of course, is recorded by Imam al-Bukhari in his Sahih and by Muslim in his Sahih. Now, just look at what comes next. So what do you think, everyone? What do you all think about the matter I'm about to discuss now? In the past, during wars, when one tribe defeated another or one army defeated another, there would be captives. And among those captives were women and children and so on. They used to separate mothers from their children. That is, a woman and her children would be taken, and then they would be separated from each other. The children would be taken as captives and distributed, and the mother would be taken elsewhere, and so on. Of course, this situation brings about torment. It is a terrible torment for the mother. Why is that? Because this is a mother's heart, everyone. And it is well known that a mother's heart is full of mercy for her children. She was created and born with this instinct. Her heart holds immense compassion for her children. So whoever separates a woman from her children commits a truly grave crime. Why? Because he deprives the woman of her children and likewise torments the children and deprives them of their mother, especially when there is a nursing infant involved, when there is a small child who needs his mother's care. Depriving them of this is nothing but sheer cruelty. Now let's look at the tolerance and compassion in Islam, even when it comes to war. Islam never allows a mother to be separated from her children. Why is that? Because it is cruel, humiliating cruelty and torture. a torment for those involved, a torment for the mother and a torment for the children. Come with me now and let's listen to this hadith. But before we do, let me tell you, our Prophet, peace be upon him, commanded kindness towards captives and forbade separating a mother from her children who fall into captivity. There is an authentic and well-established hadith from our Prophet, peace be upon him, regarding this. Who narrated this hadith to us? Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. But before I share the hadith with you, let me tell you a story that happened to the companion who narrated the hadith. This story happened to the companion who narrated the hadith. Who is that? Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari went out with an army of Muslims to confront the enemies of Allah, the Almighty. Allah granted victory to the Muslims. And Allah granted the Muslims victory over the enemies of the Muslims. The one who granted victory here was the ally of the Muslims. They defeated the enemies of the Muslims. Then, as usual, people didn't really understand the matter, yet just ordinary folks who didn't grasp the issue. So what did they do? When these people fell captive to the Muslims or into the hands of the Muslims, they separated mothers from their children. Of course, they separated them, and the children kept crying and screaming, and the women were weeping and wailing. So there was a lot of commotion, there was an uproar because mercy was needed. Look at what happened here. What exactly happened was that when the separation took place and the crying broke out, Abu Ayyub al-Ansari intervened and returned every child to their mother. This child had returned him to his mother. This group of children had returned them to their mother. This woman had lost 3 of her children, he returned them to her. If she had lost 1 child, he returned him to her, and so on. He returned all the children to their mothers. Look, everyone, this is what a true leader is. This is Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Why? Because he was the one who went out with the army and by God's will was victorious. And he had heard the hadith from our Prophet, peace be upon him. So he returned the children to their mothers. Look at this. Look at what he did. Because the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, whoever separates a mother from her child, Allah, the most merciful, will separate that person from his loved ones on the day of judgment. This means that anyone who causes a mother and her child to be apart, whether by force or by choice, will face a similar separation from those they love most dearly when the day of judgment arrives. Whoever separates a mother from her child, Allah will separate him from his loved ones on the day of judgment as a just consequence for such an act. So should I blame our Prophet for saying that? I am simply carrying out the commands of our Prophet. And what are the commands of our Prophet except what? Compassion and mercy towards these people. And so by the will of Allah, the matter was settled and the children were returned to their mothers. And this is one of the acts of compassion in Islam. Until I meet you all again in the next episode, I say to everyone, peace be upon you and the mercy and blessings of Allah